Hey, Deep Divers, welcome back. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And let's dive into some juicy pre-election drama.
That's good to me.
All right, so we're talking Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes, that Jeffrey Epstein. Dishing dirt on Donald Trump in some recently unearthed audio recordings. Buckle up.
Oh, yeah!
Because this is going to get wild.
It is quite the source. So author Michael Wolff says he recorded these conversations with Epstein while researching his book, Fire and Fury.
Okay, Fire and Fury. That was explosive enough.
Right.
So imagine what else Epstein was spilling.
Exactly.
These tapes were exclusively obtained by the Daily Beast, and we're breaking down all the juiciest bits. It's a fascinating look at how Epstein viewed Trump. You know, someone he knew long before the presidency.
Well, yeah, their friendship goes way back, starting in the late 80s and continuing through the 90s and the early 2000s.
Wow.
They were spotted at parties together, public events.
Oh, yeah.
There's even that infamous 2002 quote where Trump talks about Epstein liking women on the younger side. Yeah, that one didn't age very well.
No, not really.
But these recordings go way beyond a casual quote.
Yeah, Wolf claims he has hours and hours of conversations with Epstein.
Wow.
And some of the allegations, I mean, they're pretty shocking. We're talking claims of Trump's infidelity while in office, even alleging affairs with a politician and a black woman while he was married to Ivana.
Okay. So that's got to be awkward for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Involved.
Yeah.
But it gets wilder.
It does.
Epstein claims Trump had a specific scheme for seducing his friends' wives.
According to Epstein, so Trump would invite these friends to Trump Tower and he would grill them about their sex lives, often with the wives unknowingly on speakerphone.
Oh my gosh.
Then he would offer the husbands a chance to sleep with beauty pageant contestants, all while their wives were listening.
Wait, so he tried to make the husbands look bad to the wives and then swoop in himself?
Yeah. Playing mind games.
That's next level manipulation.
It definitely is.
And the language Epstein attributes to Trump it's pretty chilling.
Right.
He quotes Trump as saying, "The only thing I really like to do is F the wives of my best friends."
Yes.
That is just the best.
Yeah, that quote is pretty startling.
Okay, that's just disturbing.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, this is all coming from Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender with a history of, shall we say,
Right.
bending the truth.
We have to take these claims with a huge grain of salt, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But even with that caveat, it's fascinating. I mean, it's a glimpse into the world that these two men inhabited and the conversations that they had.
So beyond the infidelity allegations, what else does Epstein reveal about Trump's personality?
Well, it's a very mixed bag, you know. On one hand, he describes Trump as charming and fun to be around. On the other hand, he calls him a horrible human being with delusions of grandiosity.
Is a charmer with no morals?
It's giving Jekyll and Hyde vibes.
Yeah, for sure. And Epstein paints this picture of Trump as someone who is constantly craving attention and validation, but is also deeply insecure. He even compares him to an emotionally challenged 9-year-old at one point.
Wow.
Ooh, that's got to sting.
That one's got to hurt, yeah.
But it kind of tracks with some of the behavior we've seen publicly.
Right.
The temper tantrums,
Yeah.
the yelling at staff.
Well, Epstein specifically mentions Trump yelling at his longtime assistant, Rona Graff, who, by all accounts, is a highly competent and respected figure.
Wow. So not even loyal employees were spared the Trump wrath?
Apparently not, no.
Yikes. But again, this is all according to Epstein. So, how has the Trump camp responded to these explosive recordings?
Not happily. They're not happy at all, you know. The Trump campaign has dismissed the tapes as false smears and election interference, claiming they're a desperate attempt to hurt Trump's chances just before the election.
Well, which, let's be honest, that's a pretty predictable response. But has anyone from Trump's inner circle address the specific allegations?
Some sources close to Trump have claimed that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago once he learned about the sex trafficking allegations.
Okay.
But that's about as detailed as it gets.
Right. So we have Epstein making some shocking claims and the Trump camp basically just calling him a liar. So where does that leave us?
Well, I guess that's what we're here to figure out.
Yeah. What other juicy tidbits did Epstein drop in these recordings?
Well, he alleges that Trump had scalp reduction surgery and is extremely sensitive about being bald.
Oh, interesting.
He also claims Trump is functionally illiterate and only reads page 6 of the New York Post.
Wait, the President of the United States only reading gossip columns.
That's what he claims.
That's either hilarious or terrifying.
A little bit of both, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't decide.
It definitely adds to the picture, that Epstein paints of Trump as someone obsessed with appearances and easily influenced by, superficial things.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
He also mentions Trump constantly yelling at staff, including Rona Graff, his longtime assistant.
So it wasn't just wives and friends that allegedly got the bad side of Trump.
Right.
But once again, got to emphasize, this is all from Epstein's perspective.
We have to keep that in mind. It's important to be critical of everything we hear, especially when it comes from, someone like Epstein. We need to consider the context.
Right. And the timing of this release is very suspect, just days before the election.
Definitely.
Could this be, a deliberate attempt to sway voters?
It's possible.
We'll unpack that and more after a quick break. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives like this one.
Let's be real. Dropping a bombshell like this right before an election, it raises some serious eyebrows. Is it a genuine attempt to expose Trump, or is it a calculated political play?
Right. It's hard not to be cynical about the timing. But even if we acknowledge the potential for manipulation, there's still a lot to unpack in these recordings.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can't ignore the content just because of when it's released.
Right.
So let's dig into some of the more specific allegations that Epstein makes.
Right.
Starting with the alleged affair with a politician while Trump was in the White House.
Yeah, that's the one that really got people talking. But as we've said, Epstein wasn't exactly known for his honesty. Is there any way to verify this claim?
Unfortunately, not really. No. Epstein doesn't name names or give any specific details.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a vague accusation, which makes it pretty much impossible to corroborate.
So we're left with a he said, she said situation. And given Epstein's track record, it's hard to give this much weight. What about the claims of infidelity in Trump's previous marriages? Does Epstein provide any more specifics there?
He does mention Trump cheating on Ivana and Marla Maples. But again, it's mostly just vague accusations. He does allege that Trump bragged about having an affair with a black woman while married to Ivana, even using a derogatory racial slur in his description.
Ugh. That's just awful. It's hard to hear, that kind of language and not feel disgusted, regardless of the source.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely speaks to the kind of environment that Epstein was comfortable in.
Right.
But beyond the offensive language, there's not much to substantiate the claim itself.
So it seems like, a lot of this is just gossip and innuendo, hard to prove or disprove. Is there anything in these recordings that we can actually verify?
There are a few things that align with what we already know about Trump. For example, Epstein's claim that Trump had scalp reduction surgery has been a long-standing rumor.
Right. There are definitely some interesting photos of Trump's hair from back in the day.
Exactly. And while Trump has never confirmed the surgery, I mean, the evidence is pretty compelling. And it speaks to his sensitivity about his appearance, which tracks with Epstein's overall portrayal of him as someone, deeply concerned with image and public perception.
Makes sense. Image is everything for someone like Trump. Are there any other claims that seem to line up with what we already know?
Yes, actually. Epstein's descriptions of Trump's behavior towards staff, specifically his longtime assistant, Rona Graff, they align with other accounts we've heard over the years.
Right. I remember reading reports about Trump being notoriously difficult to work for. Lots of yelling, belittling, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And it's interesting because even in these recordings where Epstein is clearly trying to paint Trump in a negative light, he still acknowledges that Graff is a loyal and perfect secretary.
Huh. That is interesting. Almost like he can't help but respect her competence.
Right.
Even while describing her boss's bad behavior.
It speaks to Graff's ability to navigate a difficult work environment and perhaps even exert some control in a chaotic situation. I mean, remember, she's been with Trump for decades.
Yeah.
She must be doing something right.
True. She's probably seen it all at this point. But even if some of these details about Trump's behavior can be corroborated, we still have to remember the source.
Absolutely. We can't just take Epstein's word as gospel. He was a master manipulator, and we need to be aware of his potential biases.
It's a good reminder that, In situations like this, the truth can be very elusive. We're dealing with a complex web of allegations and motivations and political maneuvering.
Absolutely. And it's important to not get lost in the salacious details and the drama.
Right.
You know, we need to step back and consider the bigger picture.
Exactly. So as we move forward, let's try to separate, the gossip from the substance and analyze what these recordings really tell us about Trump and Epstein and the power dynamics at play.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how, Epstein describes Trump. It's this
Yeah.
bizarre mix of admiration and disgust. Like, he can't quite figure him out.
Yeah. It's not just blind loyalty or pure hatred.
Right.
You know, Epstein calls Trump, he calls him charming and fun. He even praises some of his policies, but then in the next breath, he labels him a horrible human being with no moral compass.
It's almost like he's both drawn to and repulsed by Trump's personality. Remember, he even claimed to be Trump's closest friend for 10 years.
Right.
Whether that's true or just Epstein exaggerating, their relationship was clearly more than just, a casual acquaintance.
And based on, what we hear in these recordings, I mean, their shared worldview seems to revolve around wealth, power, and frankly, a pretty disturbing view of women.
Yeah, that's the part that really, sticks with you. It's not just locker room talk or boys being boys. It's a deeper sense of entitlement and objectification that's really unsettling.
I mean, it's important to acknowledge that even if we're skeptical of some of Epstein's claims, I mean, the overall picture he paints, it raises serious questions about, the kind of company that Trump kept and the values that he embraced.
Exactly. If even a fraction of what Epstein alleges is true, it suggests that Trump he was comfortable associating with someone who engaged in deeply exploitative and harmful behavior.
And that has implications beyond just personal judgment.
Right.
It speaks to a pattern of behavior and a disregard for basic human decency. That's troubling, to say the least.
So we're back to that central question. How much weight do we give to Epstein's words?
Yeah.
I mean, he was a master manipulator, a convicted sex offender. Can we trust anything he says?
It's a tough one. We can't just dismiss his account outright because it offers a perspective on Trump that we wouldn't otherwise have.
All right.
But we also can't, take it at face value given his history.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle where some of the pieces are deliberately misleading. We have to consider the source, the context, and everything else we know about Trump to try to piece together the truth.
And let's not forget the context of the recordings themselves.
Right.
They were made by Michael Wolff, a journalist who's been criticized for his own methods and potential biases. And then they're released just days before a contentious election.
Yeah.
It adds another layer of complexity.
Right. We have to ask ourselves, is this a genuine attempt to expose wrongdoing, or is this a calculated move to influence the election? It's hard to know for sure.
That's the challenge with information in the digital age, I mean, it's so easy to manipulate and spread misinformation, especially in a politically charged environment.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? What do we want them to walk away with after diving into this messy situation?
I think the biggest takeaway is the importance of critical thinking.
Yeah.
We can't just blindly accept what we hear, especially when it comes from sources with their own agenda.
We need to question everything, consider the source, look for corroborating evidence, and be aware of our own biases.
Definitely.
It's not easy.
No.
But it's crucial in a world where information is, weaponized.
Exactly. And these Epstein recordings are a perfect example of that. Yeah. They're fascinating. Yeah. They're disturbing.
Yeah.
And ultimately they leave us with more questions than answers.
Well, but that's okay. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from, grappling with ambiguity and uncertainty. It forces us to engage more deeply with the information and form our own conclusions.
So as you weigh the claims made in these recordings, consider this. What does this story tell you about the nature of power and influence and the battle for truth in our digital age? I mean, it's a question worth pondering, especially as we head into this election.
That's it for this deep dive into the world of Epstein and Trump. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts on this complex and fascinating story. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay skeptical.